Hello, everyone. We are live yet again, and this is the first of 3 in a row live chats of the week I'm going to do with various authors and writers. And so I'm going to keep my eye out for my co-host. I think she's on somewhere at this point, but I will keep my eye out for her. But yeah, we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, everything between. If you like fantasy, if you like pretty much anything to do with mythology. I see her face in the cast. Let's see. There we go. We're gonna. And 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Hi.
Hello. Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's Sunday.
I know. I don't remember if it was you or I that picked the weekend. I usually don't do the weekends because I know people are usually. Well, the fun thing about weekends, you get a lot of new people because people are off and they're able to get on and stream. On the other hand, because it's the weekend, everybody wants to do something.
Looks like we have a bot.
So let me ask, huh? Yes, we probably do. So let me ask you right off the bat, because the last time we talked, I think you were working toward a new release. But
Yes.
It's been a moment. Yes. Okay.
It's been a while since we have talked. So a lot of crazy things have been going on.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is let you do, just to officially do it, because I do repost these on YouTube. Pitch yourself, let me know who you are, what you write, and then we'll go from there.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. I am Sasha R.C. I am a dark romance author, and currently I'm in the middle of doing a rapid release of 5 different dark romances. So all of my new ones you guys can purchase on the Zon right now. The pre-orders are up, and the link is in my bio that will take you guys straight to them.
Okay, I don't think the last time we talked, you were talking about 5 rapid releases. So that's a lot. So how did you get there? I'm going to grab my water, but how did you get to that point?
So things have just been crazy. I am doing all of my new books are indie. So I hired a team and I have a whole team behind me. And we were just talking and I had all these books and we're like, well, let's just do it. Let's just put them up for pre-order and let's just do a rapid release. And so now me and my team have been pulling our hair, editing, revising, formatting book covers, getting ready, doing different talks on here and other platforms to try to get ready. Because Awaken Craving, I'm hoping will be releasing very, very, very soon. So that is the first one in the 5. So.
Okay. So you're doing pre-order from Amazon, and from what I'm familiar with pre-orders, you literally have to pick your release dates in advance, right?
Yeah.
So you're dedicated to whatever you're doing. You're dedicated.
Yes, and so the I've been telling people, so the dates that's on the pre-orders on the Zon are fake. So I just had to put a placeholder because it makes you do it. So they're actually coming out a lot sooner. It's just that I had to do a placeholder, and so I just like picked some like random date. But yeah.
That's as long as you're active and you're telling your following, yes, there's going to be someone who's going to get confused, sure, because that's the way of those kind of how it's going to roll. But it's better to be early than late. And for me, like, I'm so timid about trying to put a pre-order out there because I've done it, well in advance and everything. I'm thinking I'm so prepared, and for whatever reason, life happens, and I feel like I'm always like scrambling to get it out to that point, but I have to put something out because I've dedicated myself, and that's totally fine. But to do it early, that's impressive. So that's pretty cool. And you were saying going now, indie with your team and everything. So what made you decide you're going to not only do it a series of releases in repetitive, so rapid order, but put them out ASAP? So what made you decide to do it that way versus I set these dates, if I'm ready, we'll just chill until that point? So what made you decide I'm just going to release it when they're ready?
Because I want to push myself. I want to challenge myself. And my goal is to release 1,000 dark romances. That is like my ultimate goal. And so me and my team have been talking, and like the more that you can get your books out there, the more books you put out, the more you get known. And so I'm like, okay, so let's just do it. Like let's do a rapid release, and then the plan is every month after that I will be releasing a dark romance a month. So I'm hoping that every year I'm at least releasing 12 books a year of my dark romances. So
I am thoroughly impressed because that is not the pace I can maintain. But no, I know a number of authors who do the month turnaround, and if you do the preliminary prep work in the background, it's one of those cycles. And like how I do it, like I cycle. I release I'm trying. I'm not going to say I will because there's always going to be an error somewhere. But I'm trying to always release, at this point, a full length and then 4 novellas a year. But because I've prepped them for several years in advance, the editing cycle and everything, so it looks like I'm turning them out far quicker than they actually are because we're like been a couple years into this like process and we staggered it and everything. That's how I work. But I know other authors are quicker, and you sound like you're one of those authors who can knock it out, turn it around, and it's beautiful. That's fantastic.
yeah, I try. I think my least favorite part of everything is editing and revising.
Well,
Because that's what I'm doing right now is like all of the 5 books are done. Um, especially Awakening Craving, it's with the beta readers. But my other 4, now I'm just editing, revising, taking things out, putting things in, making sure, that I am fine with all of it before I officially send it to, my editor, making sure that she catches any things that I didn't catch. So I am in the nightmare of editing and revising. That's like my least favorite part.
I understand. It's one of those things when you look at your books and you love them, they're your book children, but when you look at them for like 100 times, 200 times, however many times, all of a sudden you're like, I dislike you thoroughly. I love you, but I dislike you right now. And somewhere in that editing process, you get to that point. I do have a comment, and that is very true, saying be careful about pushing yourself too much because you don't want to get that burnout, which definitely authors can do. Everybody's different. Hello, everybody's different, but yes, burnouts can happen, and that's one of those things.
Yeah.
Is trying to find whatever works for you as an individual, whatever pace is perfect for you. Great. And maybe that's 1 in 3 years. Maybe that's once a month. Maybe that's even more than that. Good for you. I am not there. But you have to find what's right for you. And you don't want to do burnout. Have you ever, I'm assuming with your plan, you have the stories somewhere. Or
Oh
do
yeah,
they come to you
so
as you write? Like, how does the stories?
so it's actually a mixture. So right now I have 55 on the sideline where I have all the plots, all the characters, the cover, the back of the book. Everything is done except for me writing the book. And then I'm working on a secret project that I've made some videos on, but I'm being very secretive of like how
Okay.
far into it I am. So some ideas just come to me where I'm like, oh, I gotta stop and I gotta write this book. And then other ones I can like make a notebook, I put it off to the side. And so my pile of dark romances are starting to grow because these 5 I just came up with on the whim. And so I was like, oh, idea. So then I had to push off my other ones so I could write these 5 that I wanted to come out first. And then I have 7 other ones that I've already written. I just have to edit and revise and go through and make changes and different things before I send it to my editor. So I got like different piles going on.
Love that. I love that because I think in some ways, now I can't say 55 for sure, but like some ways you and I are kind of similar in the sense that we're always coming up with stories. But you do have to understand you have to dedicate yourself to write said story, which means as other ones are coming up, you have to do whatever it takes to either make a memo, do the minimal details to put off to the side, and then get back to it when you have more time to flesh it out, or else you're going to forget about it. So I kind of like with you, it's like I have a backlog of, I can't claim 55. That's still impressive. But I have a lot of stories because, like, ever since I was a child, coming up with ideas that I have at various stages of reality. Maybe they work, maybe they won't, but I have them there that when it comes time, I can decide, okay, which project's going to be the next one up. But not everybody's like that. There are authors who struggle. They write a book and then it's hard. It's really hard to figure out what's next. So again, everybody is hello everybody. Everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
So with your dark romance, your 5 that you're releasing in rapid order, are they connected in some kind of universe, or are they independent stories just because you're coming up with them so fast?
So, all of my dark romances so far, are standalones. I love standalones. But there are some in the future that I have already written, that I just have to edit and revise where they're complete standalones. You can read them by themselves, but the worlds and the characters intertwine. And then I did create a dark romance where it took characters from 2 previous books and it put them into their own world of what happens with them all together. But they're still all standalones to where, like, there's no certain order or things that you have to read before you read them. These 5 are completely different, with the stories, with the characters, with the environment, with the trauma, with different things that are in there. So all of mine so far, you can just read by themselves.
Which I know there is definitely a group of readers that they really want the standalone. They want to be able to pick up a book whenever they feel like it, be it maybe a mood reader or a happenstance. They want to pick it up and just enjoy it and then, go to whatever is next that calls them. And I am not that writer because I write deep series. So it's hard because I'm like, sure, I try to give enough backstory in all my books that you could theoretically 8 books and kind of at least I'm explaining enough where a newbie will understand, which makes it hard because I don't want to bore the people who have been with me 8 books. With that
Yeah.
said, I try to find that nice sweet thing. Hopefully you're reading from the first one because series writing, but different writers, different readers, everybody wants what they like. But that's cool. So, okay. 5 books. Can you tell everybody who's listening what picture book ideas? Like, what are the? Can you summarize the blurb in like a little thing, a teasers of what's the vibe that are coming out of your dark romances? Because, like, I mean, I can talk about my long series all the time, but what kind of vibes are coming out? Is this ACOTAR? Is this something totally different? What what are we getting out of your dark romances?
So, Awaken Craving is one of my dark, taboo, forbidden romances. So there's age gap, there's criminality, there's forbidden love, there's trauma, there's unaliving in there. Awaken Craving is probably one of my favorites, and that's, well, they all are, but I have a biased opinion. Archer, which is one of, like, the main character, I just fell in love with him in Awaken Craving. Their love is very taboo, so their connection is never explained. And so I really kept true to the taboo of, like, to the outside world, their romance and connection is wrong and does not make sense, but to them it does. With Crisscross, that is my new high school bully romance. So actually 2 of the main characters are 17. And the vibes in that book is very dominant, submissive. I'm gonna watch you when you don't know that I'm watching you. That one, I am really warning people though, because the 2 of the main characters are minors, so a lot of things happen. All of my books are very smutty, and so just keep that in mind with Crisscross, that it does have the
you would cater, new adult and up then.
Yes.
Where new adult you can have slightly underage, but like you're dealing with some really hard stuff, and then up. Versus if people don't know what you're talking about, do not categorize that as young adult. You're doing like new adult at least and up. even if you have
Yeah,
slightly
so
younger.
like on Amazon on the Zon with Crisscrossed, it's actually one of the categories that I chose was new adult because like they're right on the edge there. Um Kiss of Sin is my other dark taboo romance. There is a 20-year age gap. Unalivers, criminality, been to prison. The vibe is more of like, I shouldn't want you, but I'm going to take you anyway kind of vibe in there. Unworthy of Your Love, that book made me cry. That one is my dark addiction stalker romance. That book made me cry. The vibes there is I really wanted to give people a point of view of addiction because I've been in recovery for almost 14 years. And so you really get to see how it progresses, and their love is just, it just melts my heart. That book will always be close to my heart. Then Broken Like Me is my dark taboo college romance. That one is off the charts. That book is absolutely insanity. When I was writing that book, I literally had no idea what the heck was going on because the characters did whatever they wanted to do. That vibe is very, very taboo. So it is a why choose. There is 3 males to 1 female. It is all consensual, but is very taboo. And the college is not what you guys will think it is, and it is insanity. That book made me scream. So
Yeah, for me, like, again, different type of writers, different kind of readers. And so I am the epic fantasy and all that, and you can have epic fantasy romance. I'm not a romance writer. I will admit that first and foremost. But it's interesting because my long-term adult novella series, again, I label adult because predominantly because of the grit and the grimdark aspect and the fact that the character is a little older, but it's also because I have opened myself up to write some adult scenes. And so we're finally at the book's about to come out later on this year, finally going to have some steamy scenes, which it's not, again, romance isn't the main plot line, so I'm not a romance writer. Romance is going to be in it and all that kind of stuff, but it is one of those things that, embedding in it for the first time, and I'm curious. I'm hoping people will be like, that sounded natural versus being like, eh. Because it's new for me. It is new for me to put that much out there for readers.
well, and what's interesting with like your books, my books, like all different books, like the plots are different. So my books, these 5 are classified kind of as erotica a little bit, meaning that the story is based around the smut, and without the smut, there is no plot. And
Yeah.
so
As
the
we call it
smut,
on this
and then
platform, spice talk to the extreme, but yes.
yeah, yeah, and so I find it really interesting with authors and stuff because we all write so many amazing stories that I'm like, I love this book, but then I write something completely different. Um, and what I love about us being able to write the stories in our head is that there's no limits. So we can think of a story, write it, and then we get to share it with the world, and then people can choose if they want to read it or not, but at least we put it out there. But yeah, I'm proud of you, because you've written so many dang books.
well, again, some are full length, some are novellas and everything, but for me, you're gonna surpass me at this rate you're putting out. You're gonna surpass me in run laps, and that's cool. Like again, everybody writes to whatever speed you're doing, and but it's kind of nice. I want to challenge myself at some point to write a standalone. I
Yeah.
think that would be interesting for me to try to do a story and keep it by itself because I have a bad habit of being like, here's the story plus 15, you know? So to be able to try to like compact a story in a succinct standalone, that is one of my goals to do I feel like authors, I'm sure there's an author somewhere that gets comfy and complacent. I would love to think that more often than not, every so often, not always, but you challenge yourself to do something different. You test the water of whatever, and maybe you find out this is amazing. So for me, standalones would be something a little different. I also write one POV, singular, follow one character, which is very different from there are plenty of epic fantasy that tells from like 7 or 8 different stories. Romance, I feel like more often than not, you at least have 2 POVs. I don't know how you write. I can't remember if you dabble with multiple points of views or not in your stories, because I feel like romance, you try to get at least a little bit from both perspectives sometimes, but maybe not always. So what do you do?
So all of my books are dual point of view.
Yes.
So there's at least 2 main characters, and I always write from their point of view. Some of my books, like with Broken Like Me, there's 3 males, 1 female. All of them have their own points of views.
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, the readers really get to understand and fall in love with each of the main characters. Now, side
Mm-hmm.
characters, I don't give them their own point of view unless they sneak up on me and they end up becoming, main characters. And I didn't mean them to, like this other one has before, that I'm like, okay, apparently you're a main character now. But with all of the main characters, I love writing in different points of views. I don't think I will ever write it from one point of view because it drives me nuts and I can't do it.
I think it was like a safety zone starting out. It's like, as for me as like the new author way back when, it's been a number of years, but like it was a comfort zone thing. I wanted to get into a head and really immerse myself into a head of a character, and I think it got into a comfort zone. And then from then on, I do tell from single point of views, which again in the epic fantasy gets tough because
Mhm.
you're trying to develop this sweeping story, and maybe it's across a kingdom, maybe it's cross continents, maybe it's multidimensional or whatever it is. But to then pinpoint it, pigeonhole it to one point of view makes it a little sticky, and you're trying to figure out how to tell the story and do justice to what you're trying to get across. So I do feel like down the line it might actually benefit me to broaden that horizon, but I am that's what I've written. At least in the first 3 series at the moment, it is one point of view. And once I get done with one or the other, because I'm putting out 2 simultaneously, once I get done with one and or the other, then I can like get a new project and try to challenge myself in a different way. So
Yeah.
maybe it'll be that way. Maybe it'll be a single book. Maybe who knows? We will see. But yeah, no, I think it's nice to be able to get into the head, tell multiple points of view, and make each character feel real and unique and something that people can relate to.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and then I fall in love with all of them because that's what happened with Kiss of Sin was I fell in love with one of the other characters that was supposed to be a side character. And I'm like, well, this person can't stay a side character because now I'm in love with them and I want them to be a main character. And so then I had to switch the story because I was like, well, now the story has to change because now this is not a side character. This is like a main character because they just wiggled their way in of making me fall in love with them on accident. So that
Mm-hmm.
happened.
And and I know you talked about a little earlier that one of the stories you have written at this point, but it practically told itself, which is something
Mm.
that I was making a video, kind of a joking video that I posted on this platform about that concept about writing something and all of a sudden you have a character that just pops in there and takes a good part of the lead, and you're like, I did not expect that. It happens, and it's for someone who doesn't write, that's a little different. I get it. But it's true. There are definitely characters or plots or storylines that they'll be like, we got it from here. You just put the words on paper. We will tell you what to write about our story. I'm like, okay, it is your story now, not mine. Your story, character.
That's exactly how I felt with Broken Like Me, which was the 5th book that I wrote with these like because I had an idea and then I started writing because I'm a pantser, so I don't prepare. And by the middle of it, I'm like, I have no idea what just happened. I like it, but now me as the author, I want to know how it ends because I don't even know how it ends.
And that happens. That definitely happens. I've talked to plenty of authors who are like, readers will ask them how, especially series writers, something's going to end, and they're like, I wouldn't know as much as you do.
It's the
Because
truth.
I don't know.
That's why, like, when that book comes out, people are like, this is absolutely insanity. I'll be like, yep, I know it's not my fault. It's their fault. They took over. I just wrote it. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, you
I
become
think
kind of this.
Broken Like Me is probably one of my darkest books so far, except for my
Okay.
secret project that I'm working on. It's dark. So also shows how the characters just did whatever they wanted.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally understand, but it is. I don't know. I like it. I am not a pantser, as you said. If anybody's listening and doesn't know what these terms are, based on this platform, there are three terms. Now, not all platforms agree, but the terms here a lot on Book Talk, they're called planter. Wait, no, wait a minute, I'm mixing it up, right? Wait, there's pantser, there's the planter, pantser, and the planter. Which, if you've
Yep.
not heard, that's the one I feel like I am, because it's like you have the planner who plans everything's out, they literally write everything out, and then they just flesh it in. This is the story, there's no deviation. There's the pantser, like you are, who just on the seat of your pants, you're just sitting, you're just like, tell me the story, let's go. And then there's the plant, yes, and plant, like a thing you grow, planter, because you plant the seeds and let it grow. So it's a little bit of both, and that's what I feel like I do. I plant enough, but I also am okay to let a character write him, her, themselves into being, a subplot come out that I didn't expect, a backstory I love backstory reveals. Like, I'll be like deep into a series, and all of a sudden I hear this backstory which relates to something from like a first book, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. And like the characters, yeah, didn't you know this was my whole backstory? I'm like, I didn't know that. That stuff I love. I absolutely love that.
For my new secret project, I guess I'm a planter because I am collaborating with another person. Like, me and her brought our ideas together. Like, so much so that I'm putting her on the title page and things like that as a collaborator, because it is our ideas coming together, making this amazing dark romance mafia story. And so that one, I guess I'm a planter because it's her ideas, my ideas, and then us twisting and turning, and me actually putting it together to write the book. But with these five, I was a pantser all the way. I was like, me, I don't know.
Yeah, no, no, I understand, I understand. And yes, I see some comments popping up. Sorry. I'm trying to, like, I am bad about, like, I was talking about this on a live the other day, but it was not a book live. I was actually doing a project, which is very rare. It's kind of bookish in the sense of I write Viking fantasy as one of my series. I was building a round shield, and I had a friend who's a cosplay artist, and so she and I were doing a thing, and I was telling her I wish I had chameleon eyes, like I could look at two things at once and process at the same time. But with that said, but yes, talking about, like, yes, characters sometimes will pull their own shenanigans. You are correct, and they do. They kind of act as if they are alive. They're literally will, like, become these real entities. At least for us, real entities that like take control, and where you just have to be like, you either fight them, which you could try to argue with the story, and it's hard to force your story to go into a certain path when that happens, or you just be like, I don't know, just show me the path. I don't know.
Well, and I also collaborated with my friend on Awakening Craving. So a lot of her ideas, her quotes are in that book as well. So
Hmm.
that was fun because I've never collaborated with someone. Like, I
I
bounce ideas off, and then I found her on TikTok, and we just clicked with like Awaken Craving, and then we were on a live and thought of this new one that I'm currently working on in secret. And so it's been fun to get someone else's point of view and be like, hey, should I add things? Should I take things out? Like, should I add this crazy scene in here? And so it makes it to where there's absolutely no limits of what's going to happen in this new dark romance book when it comes out.
love it.
And me and her keep on joking that when people freak out and ask us like who decide to put what, we're like, I don't know. It was both of us.
Yeah. No, I like that. Like, I here's the thing. I know I am a control freak. When it comes to, like, even when I was in school, like, I needed to have full control of the stuff because I did not trust someone else to do the certain level or whatever. And call it trust issue, control freak, whatever. I know that. So that's how I was in school. So in writing, I like the idea of working with someone else. I don't know how comfortable I actually would be working with someone else. I would have
Yeah.
to, like, really have, like, a heart to heart, or really have, like, a self-talk to myself of, guess what? Just like real people, one character is going to do whatever they want, and you're going to do what you want, and then you're going to just have to deal with the consequences. And I don't know, how is that relationship working with you? Because you're with your bookstore, like, are you good about if your co-writer suggests something that is not in your favor, how do you handle that? Because I'm curious.
So
Does
we
that
have
happen?
not had that issue at
Okay.
all because
That's
all
good.
we do, so like me and her are like texting and talking like every day, and then I write the chapters and then I send it to her, and then she tells me if I should change something or add something in. And so collaborating with her has been really easy, and then like me just taking all of our ideas from text messages and then creating the story. So it's been very interesting because she doesn't write anything. It's like me where I am the author, but she's helping me with all these ideas. I'm putting in certain quotes
Oh,
from
okay.
her. And so it's just been interesting because she sees things I don't, of being like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
let's put in this crazy thing. Like, hey, let's have the character do this. And I'm like, oh man, like that's great. And then it's been easy because with dark romance, there's no limits. And so if she has a crazy idea, I'm like, sure, great. Like that sounds amazing. Like, let's make it crazier.
See, I give you so much props because, and I know he's in the background with my fiance, but like, I give you so much props because early on, especially early on in my publishing writing career, to take a critique or take someone else's, like, hey, why don't you do this instead of what I wanted, was really hard. And this could have been from my editor or anything. Like, it
Yeah.
was hard to be like, at one point, it was suggested multiple times at both points of I needed to really do a rewrite of my first chapter because I wanted it to be this way, and everybody was like, you need to do a rewrite. And when I finally was like, I need to do a rewrite, everybody was like, we told you so. But it was like so hard to like accept that. It's getting better, still hard, but getting better.
Well, and one thing I really appreciate about my editor, because she's like my everything. She's like my PA, my man, like she's like everything. And so she like ripped apart Awakening Craving. And so she like gave me all these suggestions and like different things, and it actually made it better. And
Mhm,
so
mhm.
um in my eyes, my goal is to put out the best book that I can, that people are going to enjoy, that's going to help my name get known as a dark romance author. And if that means that I need to take things out, because she wanted to take out my prologue at the beginning of Waking Craving. I was like, ah, but I love it. And she's like, Sasha, we need to take it out. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so then I let her take it
Hyperventilating.
out. And so because she can see things that I can't,
Yeah,
because I'm so close into the story,
that's true.
that
Very true.
I don't mind getting an outsider view because they might see something that I
Mhm.
don't. And so as long as it doesn't change my story, or I feel like it's going against what I'm trying to do with the story, because there was some suggestions I'm like, great suggestion, but I'm not going to do it. Or like if my husband says something, I'm like, that's great, but I'm not going to do it. um, so it's nice to like hear people's points of views, and then I can figure out if I actually want to do it or not.
And the thing
And
is,
so,
like, when it comes to prologues and epilogues, and for people who are writing, just know prologues and epilogues are supposed to add to, but they're not supposed to be the main part. That's why it's a
mm,
prologue and epilogue. So they are things that, if they get cut out, your story is still supposed to hold. Now, for me, as a person who loves prologues and epilogues, you know, I love them, but would you get would you get the story? Would it be totally satisfactory? Are you going to be totally happy if you read it without them? Sure. But it just, I love the tease. I love like sneaking in like again, because I'm a series writer, teasing in the next book or teasing in what's going to happen in this one. And you're like, what does this mean? Because when I write them, again, going from the concept of I'm a single point of view, my main character. But prologues and epilogues are never from my main character. They're always from someone else, some obscure person that you either are going to find out about in the book or, it just gives you a glimpse of somewhere else because, again, that limitation that I'm dealing with, it allows me to escape that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the concept is true. It's like prologues and epilogues, if someone's like, cut it, it's supposed to be theoretically. I know not always. I see a comment saying not always. I know not always, but like the concept is because if you do try to go traditional publishing, the recommendation is never submit a prologue or epilogue. That's something you add in after if your publishing house allows you to, because it's again the additive material in their minds. So a lot of us are trained that way, but I agree there are definitely some that are better for it.
Well, and I appreciate my editor after going through and editing and revising all of the I like texted her today and I'm like, I have mad respect for you, man. Like, because I'm like pulling out my hair and getting like annoyed with editing and revising, which I know is a big part to make the story better. But she's been absolutely amazing, and she's not afraid to be like, hey, you need to add in some more like points of views, or hey, like we need to take out this chapter, or hey, you need to make this chapter longer. And so I feel like all of the feedback she's giving me is just helping me make all these other books better. So all of her suggestions for Awakening Craving, I've been using that as an outline when I'm going back through and editing and revising all of the other ones. So then she doesn't have to tell me, Sasha, you did it again.
No, yes. I see a comment saying, yes, you love prologues and epilogues. They're gold nuggets. And I agree, they are gold nuggets. But I also wonder, I don't know, again, being so deep into epic fantasy, because that's my world, I don't know if genres play a factor to the fact that certain genres or certain subgenres, you almost assume it's going to happen versus you assume it's not going to happen. And then it's weird when you cross, over one way or the other. I don't know. Again, I read epic fantasy, I write epic fantasy, I read ancient mythology, but then that's its own thing. So.
Honestly, I guess as a reader, I haven't really paid attention because so like how you only read what you write. So I only read dark romance. Yeah. Sometimes, so that's a lie. Sometimes I will read fantasy, which it's all fantasy, but like sometimes I will read non-dark romance if it's a book that I've been waiting for. It's an author that I love. But with a dark romance, I've seen it both ways. I've seen dark romances that have the prologue and stuff, and then I've seen ones that don't. And I just read it. I don't like, I don't really analyze of being like, should this book have had one? But now that I'm doing mine, I'm like, well, man, I wanted it to have it, but I guess it doesn't need to have it.
That's true. I mean, like, there is extent of, is it extraneous to the point of, yeah, you have to ask, like, would it be better? And then if you don't put it in, it could always be a bonus material. You could always have a limited release and have, guess what, the secret epilogue that never was released thing, and people will buy your bonus edition because it has extra material. And it's a marketing thing, but like, and that's the marketing side of reality. But so again, I love prologues, epilogues. You're gonna find them in my full lengths. I'm an indie author at this moment. I get it. What my say goes.
So are you asking the both of us like what is one of our favorite fantasy books?
Sure. Yes, you go. We'll go with that. Yes, you go first. Because good luck with me.
Okay, so I got a tie. That I can't say which one I like better. So there's the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, which I absolutely love. I've
heard of that one, yes.
And then there's the Shatter Me series.
I've definitely heard of that one.
Yes. For the longest time I put it off. I don't know why I put it off. I saw it on Book Talk like a bajillion times, and I'm like, no, I'm like dark romance, and then I read it and I'm like, I like it. I love it, and it made me cry. So
Yep.
Shatter Me series and then the Crave series.
See, I don't have a good answer like you. Like that, I qualify as a good answer. I don't have one because my passion for the longest time, again, I love mythology. I love the source material of mythology. I'm the one which makes people shudder. I get it. But like, I've read the unabridged Odyssey and Iliad multiple times because I love source material mythology. Now, albeit, most of what I read right now is Icelandic sagas and the Eddas and everything. I'm writing a retelling of Norse mythology right now. But I love that stuff. So to recommend something, it's like, I understand that's not the norm. Not the norm at all. I have read multiple versions of, yes, I see the Holy Grail comment, and I actually have two versions. Lamort the Arthur, the most classic version of King Arthur, and then another a little more modern one. But yes, I've read all that kind of stuff. I love it. I enjoy it. To recommend something becomes hard. My challenge for the past year and going forward is to read some iconic fantasy and concurrent fantasy. So I am starting to work my way through The Witcher. I'm working my way through The Wheel of Time. I'm doing some of the stuff. I'm reading indie. I'm trying to read, the classical, again, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not there yet to give a good recommendation. One thing that surprised me last year was Circe by Madeline Miller. I know she was Book Talk famous. I don't know if she got picked up or not, but Book Talk, she wrote, what was her one that got her on the field was Song of Achilles. So I don't know if you've heard that one. But anywho, Circe was, again, the love of mythology, and it's the retelling of Circe, the character from Odysseus and the Odyssey, her life, but she really knows her mythology. So she's not just giving you the snippet from the Odyssey. She's giving you the mythological story of her whole life, and it's really well done. And yes, it's qualified as a romance fantasy, but for the most part, it's a life of a character who, is always devalued for everything. It was just really interesting with the myth and everything. So I like that one. But again, I'm just in the cusp of reading that stuff, so I don't have a good example yet.
Well, and I saw the comment how you said that both are on your TBR, but you can't seem to pull away from dark romance. So I can't either pull away from dark romance because dark romance is my thing. So it's been a long time since I've read the Crave series. I read Shatter Me series like a while back, but dark romance is like my jam. Like,
And that's good. Like, I feel like, and it always breaks my heart when I talk to someone, they're like, I don't like reading. And I'm like, what I hear is, you were forced to read whatever it was that your school curriculum told you, and you didn't like it and didn't enjoy it, and you like grit your teeth at it and pushed through it. And and you moved on. And that hurts me because I do know a number of people who felt that way, and then for whatever reason, all books across all over the board, but they found that one book that was like the key. Yeah. And then they fell in love with reading. Now, again, across the board. But I feel like there is a genre or subgenre, a subgenre for any person. You just have to figure it out.
Mermaids and pirates? Really? You're going to have to message me privately and let me know how that goes.
If you're looking at behind me, sorry, I see a comment talking about the wall. These are I'll turn this way. These are some examples of some of my books that I've written thus far. I read epic fantasy. So if you get the Harry Potter and Hobbit vibes, good, because it's epic fantasy. That's what we want here.
I tried auto books? No. And that's because I feel like with the books I read, that if I go audio, I will never to read paperback ever again because the voices will be in my head and I will be extremely disappointed if I read the book hardback without the audio. So I have not done that.
I will admit, I've never really got into audio, and I have nothing against it. I just, again, am such a print person. I like to hold the book. I like to read the book, be it paperback, hardcover. I love it. And I get the concept of ebooks where you can have your whole library in the palm of your hand. That's really cool. I just don't like the mechanics of it. I'm old school that way. But with joining this platform and hearing all different reasons why people like audiobooks and starting to make the push to convert my series into audiobooks, I have so much respect for them and the narrators and that whole thing. And it's made me realize that depending on the book, I think I could listen to audiobooks. Like, there are times where I'm doing something else, but I could be listening to a book versus like listening to music, at the same time, listening to a book at the same time and reading far more than I'm able to physically do to find the time, the niche 10 minutes a day I get to like flip through a book, So I respect that. I totally respect that. I haven't gotten into it myself, but I totally respect it. I love my narrators. They're fantastic. And I respect all that. So
there is one dark romance that I think I might actually cave in and get the audio, and that's Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, because I've heard amazing things, and I really, really, I've been hearing that it's amazing, and so I was like, oh, I might cave on those two dark romance books, and I might cave and listen to the audio.
Again, and I'm always curious for people who are audiobook readers, listeners, however you want to term them, what kind of voices they like. Because again, getting into it, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if there was a thing, because again, this was totally new to me. And, genres, is there a certain, do people like us male versus female versus non-binary versus what do people want out of an audiobook? And it was really interesting because again, everybody's different. Everybody likes different things. So for me, converting my books, I have a female narrator. She's on here. Check her out. Blanca Frappier. She's on the Books and Brew crew here on this platform, but she's fantastic. And then I have George Blagden, who was an actor on the Vikings show on History Channel. He's doing my Viking series, and then I have a full voice cast for another one because I'm trying everything. Again, someone's gonna like something, someone's gonna dislike something. It's the point of the book. Not everybody's gonna like your book, but someone's gonna like something somewhere.
So I saw a question in here. So what is dark romance? So dark romance are, huh?
I said, good question. Go get it.
So dark romance is the genre where the books talk about dark themes or elements. So trauma, different things that normally in the outside world would not be acceptable. There is a lot of like smut and other things. Well, not all of them, but all of the taboo, unalivers, stalkers normally lie within the dark romance realm if it's dark and it's romance. So,
and the difference between dark romance and dark fantasy, which two of my series technically fall in dark fantasy, the concept of dark again is, for the fantasy elements, it's maybe grittier topics. I write war. I write about a lot of unaliving characters. Like, think of Game of Thrones and Walking Dead vibes, where the realities are harsh. They're not really optimistic. You're dealing with, again, grit. But it also could be other topics, which you can't really mention on this particular platform. But, like, again, dark qualifies any of those. It just means probably, if you hear a dark, it's probably should be 18 plus.
So what's interesting, so like hers is like, think of,
yes.
Like how she said, like, think of Game of Thrones, so those dark themes, and then like mine that I write and that I read, think of like 50 Shades of Grey. So like they're both dark.
That's good comparison. Yes.
But they focus on different things. So like hers doesn't focus on the romance and love interest aspect. Mine does. So mine is centered around the romance aspect, not the action or other elements that are happening in the story, but it's just focused on the love interests.
And both can deal with emotional pain in different scenarios or overlapping scenarios. But mine also deals with physical pain because I do write war and, not, again, it doesn't really fall into the true definition of horror, but again, dark fantasy, I have a war-based shifter series, and then one that's a retelling of Norse mythology. Norse mythology is dark. There is no positive outcome in the original myth. So let's be real.
I think a common thing that we both do, but in different ways, is so dark fantasy and dark romance is normally the author, depending on the story. We all have the TWs and the CWs for people that are going to buy and want to read what we are writing. It's just that they might look a little bit different. Like hers is more on like war, mine's more on like trauma. And so like that's something that I've seen a lot of dark fantasy authors do, is that you'll start to see the TWs and CWs at the beginning of the book because of the war and like different things, versus like mine is because of the trauma and different things that happen with the main characters.
And I see that comment about Grimm's fairy tales, and that's true. That's a good point of like, if you read the original, unedited original Grimm's fairy tales, today's standards of what people expect a children's story, they don't necessarily all comply, because they do deal with very dark themes for children. I would say you could almost qualify some of them as young adult because of the themes. Let's talk about Rapunzel here. Like, that is, if you listen to the original Rapunzel story, there is some really twisted aspects of that story, and it's horrifying. But we all, well, I don't know, but the Disneyfication of storytelling, we hear fairy tales and we think happy and smiley, when that's not necessarily the case.
So I saw a question about trigger warnings. So trigger warnings and content warnings are intended to protect you guys as the readers. So at the beginning of like my books, there's the author note. That's extensive. And then the next page is the trigger and content warnings. And it basically gives you guys an insider view of what to expect that might be uncomfortable. So anything that I feel as a reader would make you guys, or as an author would make you guys uncomfortable, I put it in the trigger and content warning page, just so then people are aware of what you guys are about to get into. But not everybody, we all do it differently. I've seen authors write it a bajillion different ways. So I have the author note, which is my personal note to you guys. And then the next page is my trigger and content warnings that pertain to that book.
I do think like there's certain genres that tend to take advantage of that more. So far, I have not, but I also try to, again, be very explicit, clear as much as I can, that this is for adults, this is for kids, but I don't go into the what or the why, and maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe I'll like regret it later on. But there are definitely people who totally take advantage of that and say, here's some stuff, especially people who do a lot of psychological trauma stuff. Mm-hmm. They put that in because there are going to be people who get jarred with it. And it's totally something that I say, do it, put it in. I have yet to do it, so be warned.
So Matt, I do agree with you. So I'm one of those readers that I do not read the TWs or the CWs. I like to go in blind, but as an author, I want to inform my readers to where if there are things in there that makes them uncomfortable or triggers them, that they have the option of not buying it. Because I don't want someone to go in blind into one of like my dark romances that are coming out and being like, Sasha, you didn't inform us. Like, why didn't you take the time to inform us? So I'm just doing it as a precaution to protect people, so then they are aware. But I am, Matt, one of those readers where I don't care. And like I don't care what triggers are in books. I actually am weird, and I will use the trigger and content warnings to actually make me want to buy the book, because I'm like, oh, all of those things are in the dark romance. Okay, give me. I'm gonna go buy right now. But not everybody is like that.
Now, I will admit, and I have seen, and I thought this was part of it. Yes, it's cute, but part of it was like really ingenious. I've met a couple authors who've come up with you think of the old school stamp of all these like codes in like the square box of what is in the movie that's coming up. Well, they've come up with their system. So on their websites, they're like, this is our system, rating system. And they put these stamps in their book and saying, or on their ebooks. So it's like the trigger warning system. And I was like, those are really neat. I have not taken the time to, again, do that. But I thought that was a cute thing to do.
I agree, Matt, but I rather be cautious than like get people to attack me on this app, because I've seen that happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. As an author, you want to, it is better Don't do what I do. Do as I say, not as I do. It is always smarter because you want to protect yourself. Unfortunately, in this age of stage, if someone wants to gun after you, they may. But the point being is, yes, as an author, you might want to protect yourself, but also be fair to other people because there are people who really are sensitive to certain vibes. But it is definitely a hot button topic for people.
It is, because I've seen people get full on attacked for not putting enough in the TWs and the CWs. And then I've seen others get attacked when they put too much. And or when certain people think that something should have been in there, but as an author, I was like, that's just an everyday thing. Like, why? And so, like you said, it's a very hot topic, but I am doing the best that I can. I put it on my website. I'm putting it in the book. Like, at least I know that if someone does not read it, it's on them that they did not read it, because it's there everywhere.
Yes. And for me, I think the writing dark fantasy, again, putting myself in that genre, you should expect certain vibes from that genre. With that said, if I ever really push the limit, I probably put something like, if I really just pushed the limit of some kind of thing that was hard, some really whatever it will be, but I would probably have to put something in there just because I think that's fair. In general, because I write dark fantasy, or if I label something grimdark, or that's, again, you should hopefully know what that subgenre means and understand what that genre means something.
Well, and normally if you look at a book cover and it says like dark blue romance, like you're like, okay, okay, I got an idea, but some people don't. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to put all these things in there. And especially because I'm one of those authors where I feel like darker the better, and so I literally have no limits. Well, so there's some things I won't put in there, but adult wise, if they're a adult character, there's no limits of what I will put them through. So
we have one question comment. Where can we find, this is good because we're rounding the hour. Where can people find your books? And then I'll answer the in kind, but where can people find your books? Are you wide? Are you just, Amazon? Tell people so they know.
Okay, so my 5 dark romances that are up for pre-order are on the Zon. That is where you can find them, because that's where I'm publishing them, because I'm an indie author. And so right now they are not wide. But my other dark romance, Till Death Do Us Part, is now out. This one is wide, so you guys can get it anywhere and everywhere, from Target to Walmart to Barnes & Noble to Amazon. This one was through my hybrid publisher, but my new books, I am completely indie, so they will only be on the Zon.
And for right now, in kind, like, yes, I'm an author, epic fantasy of various sorts, young adult, new adult, adults, depending on the grit, depending on whatever. Anywho, point being is my books are on Amazon, paperback, hardcover, ebook. The audiobooks are Audible, iTunes, stuff like that. I'm converting them all to audio. They're not there yet. So I have 4 at the moment, 5 probably any day now when that 5th one drops. But the point being is, that's where you can find me. I also sell direct, which I always advocate any author who's indie, if you open the opportunity, buy, sell direct through Etsy at this moment. And I'm hoping to create and embed a shop on my website, which you can find through the link in my links page, all that information. But eventually I'll have a shop on my website, I'm hoping, where, again, it makes it a little simple. Plus I have a lot of other cool stuff. Snicker behind the side.
You're so funny.
But yeah, I'm the dork in all things nerd. And so my Portal Fantasy, and I've said 2023 is the year of the Portal Fantasy, and that's the Jet Chronicles. And yes, it's a young adult fantasy, so it's the most optimistic. It's a lot of fun, magical multiverse vibes. But that's the one I'm turning into D&D expansion pack. So I have TTRPG little miniatures that I'm painting and expansion material for people. It's also becoming an augmented reality game. So people who like that can actually now go and play that game. Portal Fantasy. Narnia is a Portal Fantasy, correct. And for people who don't know, which I didn't know until I joined this thing, Portal Fantasy is taking you out of a reality, typically Earth, our reality, but not always, our reality, and moving you into another through some means. So Narnia, example, Harry Potter through the train platform, that qualifies too. Alice in Wonderland, going through the rabbit hole. All that stuff is portal fantasy. Wheel of Time, if you are the more classic adult stuff, that's another one. So that's kind of what I'm doing for that series. But yes. And yes, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. That is 100%. 100%.
Well, I'm super proud of you. You are amazing, and you're so kind, and you never ever stop.
Well, neither do you. You're going to be like I said, the 5 right now and having 55 in the wings, that is absolutely fantastic. My Norse fantasy is called The Guardian Speaker. They are novellas, so they're short reads, but they're my version of rapid release. I release 4 a year. So you're going to start seeing new ones soon, but we have 8 out now. With that said, I always like to ask before we end these sessions is, we already talked about where people can find you. What other platforms, if any, people can follow you? Let me know. And is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would want to cover tonight? Or evening?
The only thing, because I forgot to say, make sure if you are one of those people to know, make sure you go to my link in my bio. There's a TW and CW tab that has all of them for these books before you guys actually purchase the pre-order. The other platforms I'm on is Twitter, Facebook, and IG, that I am very, very active in. On IG, I go live every Wednesday with my team to talk about my new books that are coming out. So
I didn't know that. I'll have to go try to follow you on that.
Wednesdays at 4:30 is when me and one of my team members go on and we talk about one of my new dark romances. This next week, or this upcoming week, is we're talking about Kiss of Sin. So
okay, 4:30. What time zone?
My time, PST time.
There you go. Okay. That was like, wait. I've done this before where I'm like, it gets really confusing. Always say your time zone. I've learned this. And then, well, that's fantastic. And then anything else did you want to cover today that we haven't covered? Because I'm so excited that you are about to have 5 new book babies. So that
I know really by cool. July 1st, all 5 will be out. So makes me nervous. It's like a month and a half away and I'm going to like vomit.
Yeah, you're like, for me, my book, I'm just hoping to release the next 4 of my Viking series, The Guardian Speaker, this year, because I'm behind schedule. I feel like I'm chronically behind schedule, but behind schedule. So I'm hoping to squeeze out the next 4 of that series because I'm really excited. I've already written them. I'm really excited where the story's going. Now, again, grimdark fantasy. Think Game of Thrones. If you love a character, say goodbye quick.
Oh, and one thing which you mentioned, which I did not. So all 5 of my novels that are coming out are full length, between 100,000 to 120,000 words. So they're full length standalones too.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely amazing.
Which gives me a headache when I edit and revise, but that's okay.
Yeah. I like I said, I kudos to you. I understand and I feel those sympathy pains of all that. But let me say this for everybody. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Sasha, for coming out and hanging out again. Again, we've done this is our second time hanging out, but if you ever want to do this again, let me know, because I love this.
Of course.
And you can have 5 new books before the end of the year. You're going to have totally new stories.
Yeah, we should talk about like maybe doing one in like July or August after all the books come out.
Okay, I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, thank you. Yes, and yes, needs to be 100. Everybody has your length. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about book length. It's so funny because I have gotten dinged on having too long books. Books are too long. I'm like, how can a book be too long? One. And then I've also had someone yell at me for my books being too short and calling them short stories when they're novellas. I was like, okay, one, here's the breakdown of actually the word count for each category. Short story, novelette, novella, which I'm telling you it's a novella. novel. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard because everybody likes a certain level. And I'm a big book person. I like a girthy book.
Well, and I try to shoot between 70 to 120,000. So like my books can range
Yeah.
between that. I never try to go less than 60,000 words. But these newer ones are a lot longer.
Hey, no, I get that. Like I write I that's why I challenged myself to do the novella series because I realized it was really hard for me to do a short book because I was writing like 130,000 minimum and I was just like, okay, maybe I need to like train myself to do something little. This again, I release slow because I write a big book. A chunky book. Chunk.
Well, eventually I plan on buying all of your books to help support you because I really believe that it's really important that we all support each other.
Absolutely.
I'm on a book buying ban by my spouse right now.
Oh,
So as soon as I get off of that, I plan on
no
buying all
worries.
of your books to show my support. So
Oh, no pressure. I will always accept it. No pressure. But yeah, no, I'm trying to be good about that. I have a weird system where I put things on my Amazon wish list to remind myself to buy them. And then when it comes to the time that I can actually buy them, then I funnel them and then they sit in this Eiffel Tower of physical TPR. And then they finally eventually will cycle to yeah, it takes a while. But I get there. I get there eventually. Eventually. Anywho, thank you so much for hanging out. I can smell that dinner for me because I am on the East Coast, so I smell the dinner getting close. But thank you for hanging out,
yeah,
and again, we'll talk behind the scenes and plan another one of these.
of course. And you have a good evening and I will talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for
Okay.
everybody who was hanging out today. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.